லாங்கர் லுமினா நெல்லிக்குப்பம் ரோட் குருவாஞ்சேரி ஜங்ஷன்ல இருந்து எக்ஸாக்டா 3 கிலோமீட்டர்ஸ்.
குக்கரி சேனலை பார்த்து யார் வேணாலும் சமையல் பண்ணலாம், ஆனா சுவையான சமையல் பண்றது எப்படி? நான் இதயம் நல்லெண்ணெயில சமையல் பண்றேன், ஆஹா ஓஹோன்னு பாராட்டுறாங்க. நீங்களும் இதயம் நல்லெண்ணெயில சமையல் பண்ணுங்க, பாராட்ட வாங்குங்க.
தினம் தோறும் வாங்குவே இதயம் இதயம்.
And dhanyavad to Voice of Covai organizers for this opportunity. I have a presentation and just a few slides that I have put together that I would like you to pay attention to, because yesterday and so far today we've spoken about everything good about our history, our heritage, and then we spoke about the challenges we as Hindus face, our race as a whole faces, our civilization as a whole faces, and we have talked about all the threats that we face, and most of these threats, when we discuss of threats to Hindus and Hinduism, we usually talk about threats from Western academia and media. We talk about threats from the anti-Hindu constitution articles 25 to 30, which we usually talk about. We also talk about threats from missionaries, Islamists. So we talk about all these threats. One common thing with all these threats is they're all external to Hinduism, Hindus. Now today, a lot of people are already talking about it. It's in the mainstream conversations of Hindus, and a lot of people are making ton of efforts to correct it, to rectify it, and counter those threats. But what I'm going to present today is not the external threats. In my opinion, I would say the biggest threat to Sanatan Dharma is internal to us, internal to Hindus, and the biggest threat to Sanatan Dharma is from us Sanatanis. And I'm going to walk you through 9 internal threats from Sanatanis to Sanatan Dharma. And a few people, or many of you, most of you may not like what I'm going to say today, but I will say it because preserving Sanatan Dharma is what we are all doing here. We are all here for. So with that disclaimer, I will begin my talk with 4 very critical questions. May I have the presentation, please? So these are the critical questions for the future of Sanatan Dharma. I would say, are Hindus losing the civilizational battle? We've just heard from Vikas ji that this is a civilizational war. We are in the middle of it. But I want to ask the question, are we losing this civilizational battle? Are we losing this battle? Can I hear? No? Okay. So how do we get to this question? We have to examine the current standing and acceptability of Hindus in the world, globally. The second question is the future of the Hindu race bright and secure? Okay, we have mixed answers to this. So to get to the answer of this question, we have to reflect on the demographic trends, societal changes, and cultural resilience. You know demographic trends, right? The demography changes. We are a minority in how many states in India? 8 or maybe 9. Are Hindus sure that Sanatan values will still be around 500 years from now? Yes? I love your optimism. So to get to the answer of this question, we need to question the sustainability of core Hindu principles over generations. I am sorry about the technology. What are the threats facing the Hindu society today? So I've talked about the external threats. Now I'm going to walk you through the internal threats. And to get the answer, we have to identify the contemporary challenges impacting Hindu identity and values from within the Hindu ecosystem, Hindu society. So there are 9 threats to Sanatan Dharma from Sanatanis. So Sanatan philosophy is all about looking inward as self-exploration to achieve inner peace. But today I want you to look inward, not for inner peace, but to stir our thinking and explore what is wrong with us. I know the premise of this whole statement is wrong according to some of you who said yes to all those questions. You would say nothing is wrong with us, but I will just show you what all is wrong with us. So we are wrong in 9 areas of our way of life as Hindus. These are the 9 internal threats to our own existence. Number 1, fragmentation and lack of unity. Would you agree with me that we are fragmented and we don't have unity? Caste divisions. Discrimination even among same jatis. I'll give you an example about this. So the lady who works for me is from the Mala community of, in the Telugus, there are 2 Dalit communities, Mala and Madiga. She is from the Mala community. We had a guest, there was a small get together at home, and one of our guests belonged to the Madiga community. And she was sitting right next to me, and they were offered tea. So she had, the Madiga, the guest had tea, and she laid her cup on the table next to her. And the lady who was my domestic help, she picked up all the other cups from there and refused to pick up this particular cup. You know why? I asked her, why did you not do it? And this is what she had to say, that we do not touch what has been touched by that community people. And she named that girl. I said, but I thought you were both from the same community, so what is wrong with it? And she was sitting right next to us, and she had, when we didn't have a problem, why do you have a problem? She said, no, I don't have as big a heart as you do, so I cannot touch what she has put to her mouth. So they are lower than me. So this is the level to which the discrimination based on caste has seeped into our society. So we are divided on this basis. And then regionalism, the north-south argument. I see this all the time on social media. Even when it comes to pronunciation, there is such a big divide. I have had to argue a lot of times. For example, I'll give you an example of Rama versus Ram. You know, Krishna versus Krishna. This is an argument on social media. One time I had to argue with a person from North India that, who said that you South Indians say Rama, Krishna. It's actually Ram, Krishna. Then I had to get into a discussion where I had to recite to her the Shivatandava Stotram. Jatatavi galajwala pravaha pavitasthale, right? That is the thing. So I asked her to recite it. You know how she recited it? Jatatavi gal jal pravaha pavitasthale. There is no jala gwala, right? Because they don't use the a. That's just an example. So this divide, this is just the beginning. The pronunciation opinion, difference of opinion is just a small thing. There are so many divisions, there are so many disagreements between the north and south, northerners and southerners. sectarianism. So there is rivalry and lack of cohesion among different sampradayas. We know, we read it all the time. We know one thing is, one of these sectarian disagreements is going on right now. We know about it. The second thing is neglect of dharma and spiritual practices. Erosion of dharma. So lack of understanding or commitment to dharmic principles. This is leading to significant moral and ethical erosion, decline of family values. Just now, I think Karthik ji was telling about how the family is declining. We're going nuclear. So the family is declining. We do not want to stay with our in-laws. We do not want to stay with our older parents. So family values. And then wokeism. The biggest pandemic that is hitting our youngsters is wokeism, I would say. The farther they go away from dharma, the woker they become. And loss of rituals. Younger generations frequently abandon traditional rituals, saying they're all outdated. We don't even want to do that. So this results in a break from cultural heritage and continuity. Then commercializing spirituality. Spiritual practices are treated as commercial endeavors, and this undermines the significance and the sacred purpose. Do you all agree with all that I have said so far? Then the cultural apathy and identity crisis. Westernization. Hindu parents have failed to prevent their children from westernizing. You would agree? Would agree with that? So westernizing, I mean, attire and all, that is fine as long as it is in the decent limits. But by westernization, I mean, it's okay, it's cool to be secular. It's cool to be secular. You can't be too Hindu with your peers. You can't be too Hindu because you're offending a Christian friend, you're offending a Muslim friend. So you can't wear your Hindu identity without feeling embarrassed about it or without being apologetic about it. Inferiority complex, this is what I was talking about. Wearing the Hindu identity is old-fashioned. You know, I live in the US, and earlier, I mean, just 10 years ago or even 5 years ago, you wouldn't see as many young girls, college and school-going girls, Muslim girls, wearing the hijab. Today, they do it with such pride. And then I realized that on WhatsApp, you have these emojis, options, right? There is a hijab emoji. But to this day, I haven't seen a bindi emoji. I don't blame them. I don't blame the makers, the tech guys. I blame it on ourselves. We have not made it enough obvious, or we have not raised our voices asking for something like that. Where is our representation? Nobody has cared to ask about it. In fact, we are ashamed to wear our Hindu identity. Then following traditions is superstitious. Following Sanatan traditions is superstitious. The kalava or the veshti, these are all gone, so we just can't wear them in public places. And we have a clear diminished pride in our own heritage. This is all our inferiority complex. The neglect of language, I don't have to go over this. Of course, I see a lot of effort being made in this area, but the reason we are having to make an effort to begin with in the first place is we have neglected it for a very long time. Now, the fourth is lack of education about Hinduism. Ignorance of history. Then I'm going to go quickly because these titles are pretty obvious. Silence at the misrepresentation in education. So every now and then we come across some Hindu-phobic statement or a Hindu-phobic idea in our children's textbooks, school textbooks, and we don't do anything much about it, right? How many parents actually go back to the school and protest against what their kids are being taught. How many of you, I mean, just curious, how many Hindus? Yes, I see some hands. Great. So this effort, I feel, should be more collective. It has to become more concerted effort. I'll give you another example. I was talking at a Bauddhik in HSS in the US one time, and a 10th grade girl came up to me and she said that she had taken a world religions class in her 10th grade, and it was comparative religion and Islam versus Hinduism. So the conclusion of that class, of that teacher of that class, was Islam is an egalitarian religion, whereas Hinduism has caste system. Therefore, Islam should be embraced and Hinduism should be abandoned. This was the conclusion of the class. Now the girl went up to the teacher and asked why she would say so when Hinduism is so much more than just caste system. The teacher said, well, this is what is available in popular media, and this is what one gets to consume when you write what is Hinduism. This is what comes up, and that is what is in the textbook also. So the girl tried to protest, and then the Muslim girl came up and she said, there's so much liberty for women in Islam. Show me the liberty in Hinduism. You all have sati system. You all have child marriages. Now the Hindu girl was not equipped enough to counter the Islam girl, the Muslim girl, and talk to her about their regressive traditions, Islamic regressive traditions. Now what happened was she went and reported it to her parents, and then the parents were supposed to go back to the school council, school principal, and take up the issue, but the parents did not do it. The reason being, there is a well-developed ecosystem that will come in support of the Muslim girl, and the Hindu parents know that there is nothing of that sort on the Hindu side, and they will never get the support. This is a very recent incident, just about 4 or 5 months ago, and this is the state of affairs in the US, state of affairs in the Islamic ecosystem and in the Hindu ecosystem. So college and school textbooks have derogatory ideas being floated about against Hinduism. Weak academic infrastructure. So there is a deficiency in the establishment and promotion of Hindu studies programs at universities, in universities across the world. Hinduism studies in foreign universities are usually chaired by anti-Hindu or Hindu-phobic academicians. So we know Audrey Truschke. Have you heard of Audrey Truschke? Right? Yeah. So anti-Hindu. She chairs Hindu studies at Rutgers University. Next, disinterest in collective action. Individualism over community. There's a focus on personal success among Hindus, and there is a lack of contribution to collective causes, and this leads to a fragmented society. Now, I'm not saying all this, I've not picked this up from the internet, I'm not saying all this out of, I'm not speculating, I'm not making guesswork. As the Director of Advancement at the Hindu University of America, I look after the fundraising. I mean, my role is to secure the financial future of my university. It's the one and only university, one of its kind, not just in America, across the globe. And I get to interact with Hindus, well-to-do Hindus, HNI, high net worth Hindus across the United States and across the world. So I get to talk to them a lot. So I interact with them at a very personal level too, to the point that I know what their children and grandchildren, how they think, what is their thought process. in just discussions and all that. So this is the summary of everything that I have understood, learned, observed from my interactions, through my interactions with this Hindu community. So individualism over community, there is no effort to come together for collective causes. Okay, weak philanthropy. Do you all think Hindus are good at giving for Hindu causes, dharmic causes? I didn't hear you. They're getting better, but a long way to go. A very, very long way to go. We are nowhere near even the start mark. I'll come back to that. I have a detailed summary on that, so I'll come back to the philanthropy part. So political disengagement. Somebody else was also talking about how we don't like to vote, we don't go to vote, minorities vote way more than we do. So we know this is a very big problem too. Economic disparities, marginalization. So many rural Hindus in rural communities, they face economic challenges because of which they cannot even celebrate the festivals like festivals should be celebrated. And their economic hardship often drives them to convert to other religions that actually purport to offer support. And of course, economic hardships are taken advantage of by missionaries. We know that. I have spoken about this a lot of times. But my question is, I've heard this a lot from many Hindus and even on social media comments. They say there's a term called rice bag converts. Rice bag converts. So for those of you that don't know what this term means, it means to say that a Hindu is converting to Christianity for a rice bag. Now the question we should ask ourselves is, if a Hindu who may have been a staunch or some kind of liberal Hindu, but Hindu nevertheless, is able to abandon his or her religion for a rice bag, why don't Hindu individuals or organizations step up and give the same rice bag and stop that conversion from happening? We've never asked this question, which is why we are minority in many states today. I have a long way to go. Can you please take the presentation back, please? Okay, I'll take it from here. Thank you. And we have neglected our artisans and farmers. We know that. I'm not going to go into a big detail here. The next thing is intergenerational disconnect. Our youth have disconnected from us, and particularly those convent educated and those in the diaspora, people outside of India that were raised outside of India, they are disconnected from Hindu traditions, leading to a diminished sense of identity. And I have something to say here. Like I said, I interact with a lot of Hindus abroad. And one of the growing concern with temple boards is how do we retain our youth after they are about 13, 14 years of age? How do we still get them into the temple after they are 13 or 14 years of age. Till they are 13 or that age, they go to the temple, they accompany their parents. But once they are in high school, they do not want to go to temple. So across the board, across America, the temple boards are worried about how to retain their youth. And I was asked this question a lot of times by a lot of boards because I come from a Christian background, and the reason Christianity is so successful, so widespread is because of the Christian youth. Christian youth basically lift the burden of Christianity, I would say. So we have to ask ourselves, what is the difference between the Hindu youth and the Christian youth, and where as parents have we failed? And failure to communicate relevance, what I mean by this is elders have failed to give scientific reasoning to their youngsters, because of which they think all our Puranic stories are all just stories and myths. So that's just one example. And lack of mentorship. I'll quickly go through these, run through these. Internal criticism and divisions, the infighting among leaders, then there is over-criticism, and then failure to adapt. I want to talk a little bit about the failure to adapt. So, in the city of Hyderabad, when I wanted to bring in the concept of satsangs into temples, in a structured way, in a structured manner, I was criticized saying that you cannot bring the Christian system into Hinduism. So, because of my background in Christianity, I know how a church functions and how successful the congregation in churches have been, and how it has led to the exponential growth of the church globally. So I wanted to incorporate the same thing in the temple ecosystem, temple environment. So when I suggested that we should do in a structured manner, any satsang once a week for 2 hours should happen in a structured manner, I got a backlash saying that it should not happen because Sanatan Dharma or Hinduism is not a structure. There should not be a structure to Hinduism. Everybody who comes to the temple should do their own dhyanam and they should leave. Why are you trying to incorporate your church experience, Christian experience, into the Hindu way of worship? So that is what I mean by failure to adapt. Now my reply to that is adapt or be willing to die. Okay, the last is the lack of donation culture. Do we have a donation culture in Hinduism? The giving culture, giving for Hindu causes? We'll try it in just a little bit. So individual dharma focus. We as Hindus are focused on our own moksha, right? We are all on a moksha marg. So each one has, we adapt each of the ways that best suit us, that we understand the best, and we are each on our own path. There is no collectiveness to our effort. So it is an individual dharma focus. Then there is this is a decentralized structure. Hinduism does not have a centralized authority or structured organizations that actively solicit and manage donations for communal benefit. Like Jerome was saying, within the Christian ecosystem, there are organizations globally, that function globally, that draw a picture, customized picture for each church to raise funds. That is how concerted that effort is. We lack that. An absence of systematic fundraising. Fundraising is not just about going and asking for funds and be done with it. Fundraising is a whole, I would say, a science. So you keep in touch with the donor, you cultivate the donor over a period, you do donor recognition, donor entertainment programs, like you call them to, events like this, and you specially recognize the highest donor. So fundraising is a whole different, it's a different industry. It's a whole industry in itself. And like somebody said, we are getting better. That is why I said that we are nowhere near the start mark also. So then we have misconceptions about prosperity. As Hindus, we focus on self-sufficiency and personal prosperity rather than collective progress, seeing wealth accumulation as a means to fulfill our familial responsibilities. So we are so caught up with making ends meet. We are so caught up with making careers and giving good life to our children. Well, I'm not against it. Every human being must do that. But there's another baby that we have to take care of, which is the preserving of Sanatan heritage and Sanatan Dharma. This is the next thing. We have so many organizations asking for money, right? At least in the US, there are so many organizations pitching for funds, donations. Now, as a Hindu donor, we have trust issues. We can't go ahead and give our money to every organization that is asking us. We are first worried about what if they misuse our funds? What if they're not putting it to the right use? So this trust issue is something that really bothers us and hinders us from donating where we have to donate. Now we can counter this, but just because we don't have much time, okay, that is the 9th. Now, how to start addressing these internal threats? There are several ways of doing it, but for the purpose of this talk, I just said, I gave an overall picture, which is to strengthen the Hindu ecosystem. And one of the ways is through education and awareness. We have to invest in instilling pride in our next generation, in coming up with institutions that can do that for us, that can help us do that. Then we have community engagement. So how do we strengthen the Hindu ecosystem? I would say the only way forward is donate. Get the culture of donations. Like I heard somebody else also talk about this. Today, Hindu organizations are suffering a great deal because of lack of funding. This is why this may be the reason why we will lose this civilizational battle, because the other groups, they are well funded. And a lot of Hindus think that Christianity gets, the church in India gets its money from foreign countries. No, these are all homegrown. These are all homegrown. So they don't need funds from foreign countries anymore. I have been part of the church and I have been part of fundraising activities at church. Like Jerome said, one call from the podium and people are willing to give thousands, multiple thousands in just one evening. The pastor from the podium has to just announce the cause and people just give. So with that, I want to try, like you said, we are not losing this civilizational battle, right? So I just want to try with this, with Covai people, the vibrant Covai community. Can we try something today from this platform? Voice of Covai. You see all this, the stage, the lighting, the food, and all the posters that you have seen on the street, on the roads coming to this place. That takes a lot of money. And I'm thinking that a ton of volunteers have put their own money into this. It should not be the burden of any one organization or one person. So So we are all a community, and we know the threats external and internal. Now you know internal. We've always known the external threats. Now you know the internal threats. So as people that want to see Sanatan Dharma win this civilizational battle, can we make a pledge today to donate to this cause, to Voice of Covai? So the next 10 minutes, I want to spend, the next 10 minutes I want to spend on getting as many pledges. If you're not come prepared today, there is a QR code at the end of this hall. You can go there and you can donate. If you don't have cash on you, you can donate there. Or you can make a pledge today. I'm not sure if the organizers have any way of recording any people's pledges. And to be very sure, I haven't spoken with the volunteers, I haven't spoken with the organizers. This is what I do. So it just came naturally. So since you all challenged me that we are winning this battle, so I just wanted to test you, see how we can win this battle. Okay, let's begin with 5,000. How many can you pledge? How many of you can pledge 5,000 today? I would want the volunteers to go and make note of their names, or you can just step out into the aisle. Okay, great. Yeah, come on, Covai, you can do better. You can definitely do better than this.
I'll translate it for you.
Yes.
மிஸ் எஸ்தர் என்ன சொல்றாங்கன்னா, இதுல எத்தனை பேரு வாய்ஸ் ஆஃப் கோவைக்கு 5000 ரூபாய் கொடுக்க டொனேட் பண்ண தயாரா இருக்கீங்களோ ப்ளீஸ் ரைஸ் யுவர் ஹேண்ட்ஸ். இது எஸ்தர் மேடமோட ரெக்வெஸ்ட். இட் இஸ் நாட் ஃப்ரம் த ஆர்கனைசர்ஸ். ஷீ ஹஸ் ஸ்பான்டேனியஸ்லி ஆஸ்க், உங்கள எத்தனை பேரு இன்னைக்கு டொனேட் பண்றீங்களோ ப்ளீஸ் ரைஸ் யுவர் ஹேண்ட்ஸ். No, it is today's request. Now, fresh request. வடிவேலு மாதிரி அது போன மாசம், இது இந்த மாசம்.
Okay, we've had several 5,000s. Let's move to 7,500 next. A pledge for 7,500.
They want you to come down.
These lightings cost, you know how much? The posters, the hall, the food. Okay, let's go back to 3,000.
We can clap.
Yeah, let's recognize them. Okay, we'll move to 5,000 again. And then we'll stop at 7,000. You can do it, Coimbatore. Thank you. So volunteers and organizers, please make note of whoever did that. So thank you so much. See, the purpose of this exercise is very clear. It's very simple. So when we know what we are facing, the challenges that we are facing, and we know that how those challenges can be countered, money is just one way of doing it. So when you step up to be that person who is countering, it gives you a sense of a good feeling, right? It does give you a good feeling that I am donating for the future of Sanatan Dharma. I am protecting Sanatan Dharma from declining. I'm preserving it. So this is the higher cause I want you to have in mind when you donate to organizations that actually are working on the ground. It could be a social media, it could be a social media handle, it could be a book writer, it could be people that spend their time to raise voice for you all, for your future generations. So think about this higher cause when you are donating instead of the organization that you are donating to. With that, thank you so much for the opportunity.